Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Britt. I'm an author, actor, director, producer, dog mom, cat mom, lizard mom, all around geek, and I am starting a new monthly video on my channel as we gear up for 2026, which, big announcement at the year-end video, so you've got 6 months to wait for that. I am starting this new monthly video on my channel, which will be a nice little sit down to talk about my author journey, where I'm at with it. So if that is at all interesting to you, stick around. So maybe for my first video here, we can talk about kind of the history of me and writing. So I've always been a really creative person. I was always writing little plays and acting in them for my family. I remember when I was a kid and I was bored in church on Sunday mornings, and I would take the little like offering envelopes and make tickets and give them to all the members of my family, my mom, my dad, and my sister. And then after church and breakfast, because we always had breakfast after church, I would set up chairs in the living room as the theater, and then I would be the ticket taker and I would take their tickets, and then I would put on these little plays for my family. Every single birthday party turned into a creative session of trying to think of fun little plays that we could put on the playground. I would gather my friends, and not only would we play Power Rangers, but we would in fact create a whole concept and storyline, not just go out and have fun. No, I wanted structured storytelling. A beginning, a middle, and an end, and I cast all my friends and things like that. So needless to say, I always wanted to tell stories for a very long time, and even though it is still something very near and dear to my heart, I fell into acting. I randomly auditioned for a show when I was in 7th grade called Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. You might be familiar with it, specifically the Brandy version of it, which by far best version. Prove me wrong. I played just a townsperson, and I showed up a few different times. I had a few different solo lines, whether it was singing or speaking, and that was when the acting bug got me. I spent the rest of my high school career honing my acting craft. I became classically trained throughout the course of high school and college, and I was determined to make that my career. And while I would still love for that to be my career, the more and more I studied the film industry and stuff like that, the less and less I became like excited about it. The more and more I realized it wasn't the creative avenue that would fulfill me, which is when I started screenwriting specifically, and then directing. Acting took a serious back seat, and I'll get to the writing aside from the screenwriting, I promise. So that's what I focused on when it came to production in college. Mostly studied history, criticism, and theory, but if I did study anything production-wise, I focused mostly on screenwriting and directing, and realized that acting, especially in film and television, was just not something I wanted to do unless it was multicam sitcom. But then those started to die off, so I realized that single camera was just the way things were just gonna go. And while I still love acting, I still love actors, I think that it's just less of a creative avenue than a lot of other things. Then I realized that film was the director's medium, and television, especially single cam, is the producer's medium. So the more and more I learned about these things, the less and less I wanted to be part of it. So I turned my acting focus to voiceover work. And I did do that for a very long time. I was able to make that a nice little side hustle for myself, and I still would love to do that. But then not too long ago, I decided to take some time off from acting just because I realized that when I got into it, it was during a really difficult time in my life. I had become concerned that acting had become a way for me to dissociate. After I was diagnosed with PTSD, I realized that dissociation is obviously a big part of my mental health journey, and ways that my brain has protected itself over the years of trying to escape trauma. So I decided to take some time away from acting to pursue other ventures so that I could focus on myself and focus less on becoming other people, so that I could determine whether or not acting was truly something that I wanted and loved versus something that allowed me to escape my real life and not process emotions properly. Then, just as that time period was coming to an end, that decided time period had come to an end, the actor strike happened. Now, while I was never part of SAG-AFTRA, I still chose to continue not acting during that time period out of fear of accidentally scabbing. So I chose to not act longer. And during all of this time, writing had become my favorite creative outlet. Let's talk about my history with writing. As I said, I've always loved telling stories. I don't know what it is about storytelling. I don't know what tickles my brain so wonderfully when it comes to telling a story. I tell stories all the time, whether they are stories I've created or stories about other people, and people really feel engaged when I tell stories. So hopefully you are engaged in this story. Whenever there was a creative writing project in school, I became so excited because it would always be my favorite thing to do in an English class is creative writing. Matter of fact, when I was a senior in high school, I was accused of plagiarizing a story that I wrote because it was too good for a high school student. Thank you, Mr. H. Not gonna say his real last name. But I hadn't. I mean, what I had done was use names from a television show that used to exist, and he found those names and was like, so you clearly plagiarized that. And I was like, well, can you find the actual words that I used? No, because yes, I used the names, but that doesn't mean that the story wasn't entirely mine or the writing wasn't entirely mine. I hear you. Side note, my cat has learned how to use the bells for my dog to go outside. So anyway, back to it. But where writing really became something that I really wanted to focus on and get better at and hone my craft was when I started writing fan fiction. What, like, 90s kid, 2000s teen, born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, became an adult in the mid-2000s, didn't write fan fiction first? Oh, what writer from that time frame didn't write fan fiction first? My best friend had gotten me into an anime called Yu-Gi-Oh! And she couldn't watch it because I grew up in a very small town, and not all of the towns had the same cable companies, and not all the same cable companies had the same channels. And the town she grew up in, which is Pequot Lakes, Minnesota, didn't have the WB. However, Baxter, Minnesota, which is where I lived, absolutely did have the WB. At the time. I don't know what their cable looks like now, but I remember when Pokemon moved from UPN to the WB, and I was devastated. I don't know if it was always on just UPN or if they had just aired it on UPN sometimes, but that's what I watched it, and then they moved it to the WB, and I asked Dad, what channel is the WB? And he goes, we don't have that. And I lived in Breezy Point at the time, Breezy Point, Minnesota, which is not far from Pequot Lakes. I mean, neither is Baxter, but not the point. So I had to tape episodes for her so that she could watch them, but I would watch them first, and then I would kind of give her a little synopsis about what she was to expect. And so one day I decided to play a little prank on her, and I went, I'm going to tell her the most ridiculous story I could ever come up with. And so I did. And I made it all about my favorite character and my second favorite character, and so obviously I'd be super excited about this. So I went running to school, well, drove to school, then went running to Nikki and said, oh my God, you will never believe what happened on this episode. She's like, what? So I tell her this elaborate story. And she was like, oh my God, that sounds so great. So she goes home, watches the episode. That was not the episode, obviously. And she comes back to school the next day, and she's like, what the fuck? And I went, yeah, gotcha. And she goes, did you come up with that? And I was like, yeah. She's like, dude, you need to write fan fiction. And I was like, what? She's like, no, seriously, you need to write fan fiction. And I was like, okay, I will figure that out. So I started writing fan fiction, and I wrote that story, continued it, ended it terribly, because the problem is I knew how to leave off on a good cliffhanger, not so good at figuring out how to end stories back then. I got better at it, kind of. A lot of my fan fictions are still up on fanfiction.net, unfinished. So that's where I started honing this craft of writing, and I started to really take it seriously. Then when I got to college, I started taking creative writing courses. Anytime I could take it as a general education course, I did. I should have actually minored in creative writing. I don't know why I didn't. I minored in French. Je parle français. What good has that done me? And I actually had left fanfiction.net, I think I can't remember if it was senior year or if it was freshman year of college, but I had left fanfiction.net because they had changed some of the rules and some of my stories got deleted because they were not like kept, even though they existed before the rules. I don't even remember how that whole drama went down, but a few of my stories got deleted from fanfiction.net because people reported them. So, and no, they weren't lemons. I did write lemons though. I did. I started writing spice when I was like a teenager. I started reading spice when I was a teenager. Teenagers, don't read spice. Don't do it. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, my books are not for you, unless they're under my pseudonym for sci-fi. Speaking of which, when I was about a junior, senior in high school, I watched Power Rangers Dino Thunder. I don't remember if I was a junior or a senior when that one came out, but either way, I watched Power Rangers Dino Thunder, and for some reason, this idea sparked. Like there was some kind of inspiration within that story that made me go, oh, I have a great idea. So I took pieces of Power Rangers, pieces of Animorphs, pieces of what turned out to be Smallville. Didn't realize that till I started rewatching Smallville with my mom over the last few months. But yeah, I took pieces of all of those and kind of combined them, and a little bit of Star Wars as well, and kind of created this trilogy, this sci-fi trilogy that I am still trying to work on. I have written the first draft of the first book at this point, but I had restarted it numerous times. And so for the last 21 years, that story has been bumping around my head. It was the very first, like, truly original story concept that I had come up with from beginning to end. And I say that because obviously fanfiction is not original, because the concepts are from a TV show or a book or a movie or whatever that you love, a property that already exists, right? It was completely brand new, completely original. Yes, took inspiration from things that I loved, but were not specifically designed after those things. I tried writing it, came up with a fantasy idea, which now I'm trying to reformulate that as well, because I'd still like to do that one, because I still like that one a lot. Originally it was supposed to be a trilogy, but I think I might just make it a standalone if I ever actually do it. But anyway, came up with a fantasy idea that was kind of inspired by a little bit of the anime that I was watching at the time. And suddenly I was a sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure writer, and I moved away from romance, which is hilarious because most of my fan fiction was in fact romance or comedy, which I am not a good comedy writer. Please don't go look at my fanfiction.net stuff, because just don't do it. And so then I moved into sci-fi, fantasy, action, adventure with, you know, some hints of romance here and there, because obviously there was always going to be a couple that would end up together in the end. Because what is a story without romance? Some people say it's a great story. Me, not so much. I like when there's romance. It doesn't always have to be spicy, because these were young adult ideas, not spicy ideas, but I digress. And then life happened after college. I moved here to the Twin Cities after I left college, and while writing still became something that I really enjoyed doing, between the years of 2009 and 2018, I really didn't do much of it because I was working in retail, miserable, hating every aspect of my life. Price Check on Love, coming out November. Check it out. Anyway, moving on. So then 2016, I left retail and went to real estate school, was a real estate agent for a little while, and kind of had forgotten about this love of writing that I had done. I'd also fallen into YouTube at this point, and that had become my favorite creative outlet. Because I saw so much potential for me to be able to produce my own things so that I could go back into acting and make it as creative as I wanted to be, because I could be everything that I wanted it to be. But again, life kept getting in the way. When it was retail, it was just my time and labor, and when I was in real estate, it was the fact that I was stressed out because I never had any money, because you don't get paid when you're in real estate. So I took on a part-time job, froze my real estate license, went back to school, graduated in 2019, 10 years after I was originally supposed to graduate from the very beginning, because I dropped out originally, if you didn't know. At one point during that whole thing, 2018 happened, and I had always heard of something called the November Writing Challenge. I mean, it's gone now, so I suppose we can start saying the name again, but I don't care. The November Writing Challenge. I'd always heard of the November Writing Challenge, and I was like, wow, 50,000 words over the course of 1 month. That sounds insane. That sounds intense. I don't think I could ever do that. And so then 2018, I decided to try. Actually, that's not true. I did try a couple of times, failed every time. But 2018, I decided to actually try. Lo and behold, I won. I wrote 60,000, I think, over the course of November, I think is where I landed with Deepwater originally. And while I was writing Deepwater, I realized this is what I wanted to do. Like, there was this weird epiphany in my head of like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I want. I wrote half of Deepwater, then realized I had to write the rest of it, and then realized I was gonna have to edit it, and then realized I had to go through all of that and either find an agent or self-publish, which at the time, certainly, self-publishing was a lot less respected than it is now. And I was like, well, this seems like a lot. So I gave up on it. I gave up on it until 2021, when I tried it again. And I'm glad that I tried it in November of 2021, because if I hadn't, I don't think it would have ever started up again, because in December of 2021, if you all remember, my beloved dog Cosmo passed away, and that devastated me. That absolutely took me out for months. I had enough energy to do work and to make a few videos here and there, but anybody that knows me on a personal level, that knew me at that time, knows that I was basically bedridden if I wasn't forcing myself to have the energy to do anything. So writing was something that really, I don't want to say saved me, because I don't think it saved me, because I think I would have been fine regardless, but I don't think I would have ever gotten back into it, or at least it would have taken a lot longer for me to have gotten back into it. But because I had started that project in November of 2021, that really kept me focused on a goal, and I achieved that goal and released Deepwater finally in 2023. Why did it take me so long? Because I liked writing first drafts. And I wrote a few first drafts, some that will never see the light of day, but still they were great practice. And I started writing fan fiction again. Whenever I felt blocked, I wrote fan fiction, and I'm never gonna publish it. I'm never gonna put it anywhere. It's just for me, because it's just like writing practice. It's just, you know, my way of trying to like get stories out. But yeah, so I started writing fan fiction again. I started writing first drafts again. And then I had made the decision after like my third or fourth first draft. I was like, okay, I'm not allowing myself to write another first draft until I have released my first book. So then I went just straight into Deepwater and got that published after a lot of drama. If you don't know about that drama, you guys can click up here when I talk about it on release day of Deepwater. Please do. It was a lot, but I released it and I loved every aspect of it. Granted, yes, the editing is meticulous, tedious, all of that, but I still enjoy it. I still enjoy listening to my stories, because I listen to them because I'm dyslexic. I was diagnosed with that at 16, but I'm dyslexic, so I like listening. So I do the read aloud feature on Word, and I listen to it, stop when it sounds weird and fix it up, and then go back and listen to it more, and I go through it page by page, and I genuinely really love that process. I love everything about it. And the more and more I learn about indie publishing and that industry, the more and more I actually really, really love this. It was the exact opposite of the film industry. I learned more and more about the film industry and went, ugh, and learned more about the indie publishing industry and went, yes. And so that's when I realized that my true, not maybe calling, because I don't necessarily believe in callings or anything like that, but my true creative outlet, the one that makes me feel the most fulfilled and the most creatively satisfied, is in fact writing. That's a little history on my writing career and where I'm at right now. I've released Deepwater. I will be releasing Price Check on Love, my second novel, this year. I'm hoping, now that I've gotten into a really good swing of things, of like writing a first draft, letting that sit, writing another first draft, going back to this other first draft, and doing a second draft, going back to this first draft, and then, well, not really, because I am writing an interconnected series, so I'm writing all those first drafts first, but that's a whole different story right now. But that's kind of my cadence that I want to get into, is basically I'm always working on a draft. So go back to this draft, write this draft, go back to this draft, write this draft, go back to this draft, or edit, right? I'm not rewriting anything, but, or well, I'm rewriting just paragraphs and whatnot, but you get the point. It's rewording, it's editing. And my books go through quite a wide range of different ways that it's edited. So I write the first draft, I let it sit, then I go through it myself for a second draft, and then I have my alpha reader, who is another author, go through it and make subtle edits. Then I do my third draft through that, and then where Price Check on Love is right now, which is going into the 4th draft, which is beta readers. So I have 7 people who are going to be reading Price Check on Love, and they will be giving me ideas or places that I need to maybe reword things. They're the first group of people to read this book that I do not know in real life. So it's very exciting. Then I get that back, I do those edits, and then it goes into professional editing. And I am very lucky that I have found an editor that I can afford, because I will be real with you, the editing, you know, because indie publishing, you have to pay for everything. You have to pay for your book cover, you have to pay for your editor, you have to pay for the formatting, unless you can do all of these things by yourself. But I am not able to do that. Those are ways I am not artistic, and I can be honest with you on that. You have to pay for your marketing. You have to pay for all of these things that you don't have to when you go traditionally published. But I like the idea of my voice gets to be my voice, and I don't have to bend for a publisher and what they want their voice to look like so that I fit their voice. I want my voice to be heard, not somebody else's. So that being said, I am very lucky that I've been able to find people and create a team that I can afford, because not everybody can, and I understand that. And the gateway to entry really sucks. It really does. No matter which direction you go, the gateway to entry really, really sucks. Then it goes into 2 rounds of professional editing. So my editor does one big pass with really big edits, and then does one final last like polishing pass, and then it's considered done. And so it goes through how many? 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. 6 whole drafts. So 6 whole drafts of my books. So by the time they get to the point that you can purchase them, they've seen many eyes, they've seen many edits, and I feel like I tell a really good story. So this year in particular, my goal was originally very stringent. It was 2,000 words every single day over the course of 2025. Then I started taking a couple days off here and there. Cue Huey Lewis in the news. But then it turned into, well, maybe I'll just average 2,000 words a day. And then I started editing Price Check on Love and realized, oh wait, I'm not gonna be writing anywhere near 2,000 words, hopefully it's not that bad, when I, you know, am editing. So now it's like, now I'm reformatting the idea of like how to maybe redo this goal next year. But for this year, I'm just trying to get my books out there. And my ultimate goal long term, when I am still working full time, is to release a book every 6 months. That would be the ultimate goal while I'm still working full time. At some point, I would love to be a full-time creative, which would be author, actor, probably theater, because I would love to go back to theater at this point. Which is funny. If you asked me that when I was in high school, she would have said, no, I love theater, but I want to do movies and TV shows. No, I want to go back to theater. And making content for the internet like this. So when I'm a full-time creative, I would like to actually release books on a quarterly basis. That would be ideal. I feel like if I could get into that cadence of how I work on my drafts and how quickly I can turn things out, I really, really do think, especially if I'm full-time, that once a quarter would actually be pretty okay. Because that's the beautiful thing about indie publishing, is you are on your own time frame, you're on your own timeline, and I prefer that. There are just so many things about indie publishing that I much prefer over trad publishing. If you want me to do like a video on why I chose indie publishing over trad publishing and actually get into the nitty-gritty of it all, let me know and I would happily do that video. So that's where I'm at. And right now I'm not even averaging 2,000 words a day, but that's okay, because after my 3rd draft of Price Check on Love, I really, what was it? No, it was my 2nd draft of Price Check on Love. Was it? I don't remember. Anyway, at some point, I really struggled to get back into writing, actually writing something new. Like for some reason, the words just were not coming. I was super blocked. And now it feels like it's coming back pretty nicely, because the first 2 months of the year, holy crap. In January, I wrote 60,000 words, and in February, I wrote 55,000 words, because I'm tracking the words that I'm writing, the amount of words that I'm writing every day. I am tracking it, and that's so I can have my average. And I'm currently averaging, I think, like 1,500 words a day right now, so it's not terrible. And I'm not judging myself at all, because obviously goals are you know, it'd be great to meet them, but if you don't, you don't, and that's fine too. It's not a way to shame myself, it's a way to drive myself. And so I am approaching it with a lot of grace and empathy over the fact that I have a full-time job and I have animals I need to take care of, and I'm in the process of moving, and I'm in the process of buying a house and all this stuff. So anyway, and I still want to make sure that I'm, you know, fueling my body properly by eating nutritious foods and working out, because I am very active. I'm actually an athlete regardless of the size of my body. I am in fact an athlete, so get out of here with your fat phobia, thanks. So there's just so much happening in my life that it's okay that sometimes I feel a little blocked. So that's why I'm not shaming myself at all over it, but I'm in a really good place right now. I'm feeling very creatively inspired and very creatively fulfilled. And it's been a long time since I have felt this way, which is why I all of a sudden want to be making YouTube videos again. Like more than just vlogs. I actually want to do sit down videos like this, and I'm planning on those, and I'm trying to like do things that will bring back my geeky videos in new and exciting ways, and ways I can incorporate you guys into my writing career like this and things like that. And so I am very excited for this next chapter of my life. I cannot wait for what this passion that has been brewing inside of me for pretty much my entire life to tell stories finally formulating itself into writing. I can't wait to see what this future brings me. So there is always links below to see books that I have released. So depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching this upon release of this video, I have Deepwater out right now, but by the time you watch this, maybe I have more. So yeah, I am in such a good place right now. And I honestly don't think I've ever felt happier in my life. And that's a big deal for me. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and leave a comment below. Let me know what your goals are, whether it's creative or athletic or whatever it might be. Let me know your goals in the comments for this year. And I'm gonna cheer you on, because I don't know, really stepping in and driving to my goal has really, really lit a new fire in me and has brought me back to life. After many years of mental health struggles, and especially after Cosmo died, and really not getting my footing back for a very long time. It's finally back, and I'm happy about it. So I hope that you all have a great day. Anyway, if you guys want to see the video where I announced Deepwater, you guys can click right here. If you guys want to see the last live stream I did with my friend Kay, you guys can click right here. You guys can click to subscribe to this channel right here. And I cannot wait to see you all next time. Bye.